Welcome back to A Bite from the Money Sandwich, where we provide practical and easy to understand tips and ideas on how to manage your money better, so as to let you retire with comfort and on your own terms. Wow, I can't believe we're already kicking off 2025. But before we dive into new conversations and guests, let's take a moment to reflect on the highlights of 2024. Over the past year, we've had some incredible guests who've shared their expertise across a wide range of topics. And as always, I've asked each of them for their best piece of advice. So in today's episode, we've compiled those standout moments, the lessons, the insights and wisdom, that shaped their journeys and contributed to their success. These aren't just money tips, but life advice that we can all learn from as we step into the new year. Get ready for some golden nuggets to inspire and guide you in 2025. To start the year, we had episode 40, where I spoke to Kian Wang, Chief Economist of Vanguard Asia Pacific. Kian shared insights into the current global economy, the outlook for 2024, and the importance of asset allocation within investments. Here was her best piece of advice.
The best advice for my life, seriously, is like focus on what you can control and let go what you can't. Seriously, this helped me a lot when dealing with two teenagers in my house. Now talking about your two daughters, right?
Yes.
And of course, I think this applies to investment as well. Right. So, I mean, the market is keep changing. There's a lot of things that you cannot control. So focus on what we can control. We can control our strategic asset allocation. We can control, go with low cost of investment. Right. But market performance is not something that we can control. Right. So eventually, I think it's ultimately the Vanguard message that we stay on course and stay diversified. And don't look at your investment account every day. That will help you sleep better every night.
In episode 41, I had the chance to speak to Daniel McDonough, a former professional hockey player turned athlete mindset coach and CEO of Peak Performance Training. Daniel discussed the mental health challenges athletes face, the importance of maintaining an identity beyond sports, and strategies for mindset and growth. Here is her best piece of advice.
So from my dad, who is my dad and also was my coach pretty much my whole life, something that he said to me that I have never forgotten and I keep in my mind all the time and now say to my athletes all the time, if you never ask, the answer is always no.
Yeah.
I just love it so much, right? So you can ask, the answer might be no, yes, right? But if you never ask, the answer is always no. And then you always have that what if in your mind. Oh, well, what if I would have asked? What would they have said, right? So I love that, especially when you're talking with athletes and addressing their coaches, asking for certain things and that sort of thing. So if you never ask, the answer is always no. So ask.
In episode 42, I spoke to Dr. Carly Reid, clinical psychologist at Empower Clinical Psychology and financial wellbeing advisor for Aware Super. Carly explored the psychology behind New Year's resolutions and shared tips on staying motivated towards fitness and financial goals. Here is her best piece of advice.
I think there's always something that you can do, but it's not a case of there's always a step forward. There's always something you can do, a way that you can look at the situation differently, someone you can talk to. Not there. I haven't come across, and I've been practicing for a long time now, a problem that is unsolvable. Not to say that you're going to reach the ideal outcome, but things can always get better, and getting the right support in that can be really important and really helpful in deciding where to go forward from here.
In episode 43, I spoke to Aaron Minnie, Head of Retirement Income Research at Challenger. Aaron discussed Challenger's inaugural Retirement Happiness Index and revealed the key factors that contribute to a happy retirement. Here was his best piece of advice.
Yeah, look, I've actually had a bit of think about this one, Mark, because you ask it all the time, and so I was preempted. I actually reflected back. I'll give you something that came out of my high school maths teacher. Very odd thing. And now I didn't know until later, he was actually a reformed alcoholic. But he always started the class with the Serenity Prayer. And so that stuck with me in a sense. So I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's...
No, I don't.
To ask for the serenity, to accept the things you cannot change, courage to change the things you can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And to me, in all aspects, whether it's sort of, personal life or work or even thinking about planning, if you're thinking about what you're doing in retirement, there's some things you can cope with, and it may be you can't do much about your physical health where it is there. Maybe you can do a little bit more. Thinking about those changes you can do. And it's that wisdom to know the difference in terms of, well, what can you do and what do you just have to deal with? And then once you get that working, I think you find the real sweet spot.
In episode 44, I spoke to Jonathan Scholes, Head of Client Wealth at Findex. Jonathan highlighted the importance of early superannuation contributions, strategic retirement planning, and the value of personalised financial advice. Here is his best piece of advice.
Yeah, I mentioned before that, taking a day, I think that's a really big one. And I'd encourage anyone who listen to this podcast to do that. I think you'll find it really beneficial. I think for me, I was very lucky enough to have a very strong mentor from early days. And he says something to me, which I think has stuck with me, in that it's never too late to start, but it's never too early to start as well. So I think no matter where you are in your financial journey, I think it's the best time to start is today. So don't necessarily sit on your hands and go, well, I'm 55. It's too late for me. I can't make a difference. I remember vividly a client coming in to see me at 58, and he was not in a good financial position. And he had his retirement goal in his mind of fishing and playing golf. That was his retirement. All he wanted to do was go fishing and play golf. And I remember saying to him, we can get you there, but the next 7 years is going to be hard. You're going to have to make some sacrifices. We put in place a plan and he stuck to it. And the day after he retired, I went and played golf with him. Now, he was a terrible golfer, by the way, but his retirement at that point in time to him was all about those two things. It wasn't necessarily about this financial number. It was about giving him enough money to be able to do the things he wanted to do. And that, I think, is what retirement is. I think when you're talking to a client, you need to start thinking about retirement as what it looks like for you, what money allows you to do, not necessarily thinking about dollar amount. So, so anyone listening to this podcast, think about what you want your retirement to look like and be like, and then work backwards from there around, okay, how much money do I need to give myself to be able to do that?
In episode 45, I had the chance to speak to Chris Noon, CEO of Carly Car Subscriptions. Chris discussed tax deductions for car usage, the benefits of electric vehicles, and the advantages of car subscription services. Here is his best piece of advice.
I think the advice I got was always keep reinventing yourself. The world's changing very quickly now. You need to keep learning all the time and transitioning. The job market that I came into when I left university is very different to the job market now. The product that I'm working with now didn't exist when I was at university. So you need to be inquisitive. You need to keep upskilling yourself. You need to keep transitioning because the world doesn't stand still. You need to move with that, and you need to be slightly ahead of the curve to be successful.
In episode 46, I had the chance to speak to Damien Collins, founder and managing director of Momentum Wealth and chairman of Westbridge Funds Management. Damien shared key strategies for property investing, the pros and cons of residential versus commercial properties, and the importance of diversification. Here is his best piece of advice.
Mark, I'm very big on buying and holding. One of the things that I learnt when I first started in property, I used to be an accountant, and my background, I got out of that full time and was in property and was buying and investing in properties, developing, but I was selling everything. And so that was always thought, that was what I thought, well, to make a profit, you've got to sell, you've got to take your profits. And then it took me about 5 years, took me a bit of time to wise up, realised, well, hold on, I'm paying real estate agents, I'm paying the tax, capital gains tax or income tax on developments because it was income. Then I'm paying stamp duty when I get back in again. I looked at all the profits that I'd given away to those three transactional costs and going, why am I doing this? Why am I holding it? And, Warren Buffett's obviously one of the most successful investors in the world. And, it's the same in the stock market. People trade in and out, but he's been hugely successful by buying great assets, holding on to them for the long term. And I think fundamentally the same as in property. If you buy a great asset, don't worry, get caught up in the hype of what's the market doing next week, what's it going to do next year. Hold for the long term. And if you do it well, you'll make substantial amounts of money to set yourself up for life.
In episode 47, I spoke to Isabel Charter, CEO and co-founder of Drip Invest. Isabel explained the importance of financial education for young adults and how starting early can build a brighter financial future. Here is her best piece of advice.
I'd say that is make learning your first goal. And again, start investing something that even if you say, I'm going to put $100 here and I'm okay if I lose $100 because I'm going to learn from that. Imagine you paying for a course. Imagine you paying for university or whatever it is. And it's not likely that you're going to lose 100% of it. But if you just go into that with the mindset of, I'm focusing on learning for my first experiences, I think that will remove a lot of the barriers to start. And then once you're more familiar, you can start, once you build your confidence and you build your knowledge, then you can also start ramping up the amounts and the choices and diversifying. But definitely focus on the learning. That's the first step.
In episode 48, I spoke to Kate Brown, Head of Research and Insights at Compare Club. Kate discussed the complexities of health insurance for older Australians and why it's essential to review your policy regularly to optimise coverage and to save money. Here is her best piece of advice.
I think I really like just get it done. I used to be a sort of all or nothing person. I'd be like, oh, I need to do this thing, but it's not perfect, and I'll do it later when I've got time. And what I've learned as I've got older is there's never a good time for lots of things, and done is better than perfect. And certainly when that also applies to kind of these services and these kind of little tweaks you can make to your finances and to your life, done is so much better than perfect. So just take the action, get it done. It's better than it sitting on a list waiting to be perfect and not getting actioned for a couple of years or never. Yeah, that would be my advice.
In episode 49, I spoke to Tim Hewson, founder of Mongrels Men Health and Wellbeing. Tim highlighted the power of community bonds and physical activity in improving men's mental health and the importance of reducing the stigma around mental health issues. Here is his best piece of advice.
Breath. I mean, it's pretty important. But on a more serious note, I think, perspective of playing the long game. So it's very easy to get caught in the here and now, to think that what you're experiencing is not just now, but forever. And that might be, stress, anxiety, deadlines at work, anything. But things are constantly evolving and changing. Playing the long game.
In episode 50, I spoke to Tracy Hall, author, keynote speaker, and senior marketing executive, who shared her experience as the famous last victim of Australia's most notorious con man. Tracy discussed how to spot those red flags, how to rebuild trust, and safeguard yourself from scams. Here is her best piece of advice.
The best piece of advice that comes to mind is my mum gave me this piece of advice, and she said, don't complain if you don't contribute. And I love that piece of advice because it forms the bedrock of so many things when you think about your life. And it is actually the inspiration that I have to volunteer. And I think because my mum has always volunteered, she had 3 kids, really busy career life, the whole thing. And she always volunteered. And I've kind of done that in my life as well. And I think it's really easy to sit there and go, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. But what's the point in complaining if you're not doing something about it to fix it or to contribute? And I think that's a really, people are very, very happy to sit and tell you everything that's wrong with the world, but what are they actually doing? And then if I sort of think about what I'm doing now, it's exactly that. I can sit there and say, well, the bank should have done more, or the superannuation company shouldn't have let me transfer it out, and, point the finger at everyone. And realistically, there's nothing that could have been done. But what I want to do now is contribute back by saying, okay, this happened. Here's what we can do about it. Here's how I can use my time, my energy, my skills to educate others. And I think it's a really, even if you've got kids at school and there's no activities happening at school for the parents, well, go make it happen. If you want something to happen, go contribute. So I thought that was a really great piece of advice that it stuck with me always, actually.
And to finish the year, in episode 51, I spoke to Ali Rosenberg, co-founder of Blossom. Ali shared how Blossom makes fixed income investing accessible, offering competitive returns with low fees and no minimum investment, and her plans to expand the platform. Here is her best piece of advice.
Okay, one personal and one investment.
Okay.
Personal is surround yourself with people smarter than you. Can't go wrong when you've got that surrounding. And on the investment side, diversify. Nothing ever goes to plan. Nothing ever works in the way you expect. And so as long as you've spread your risk, you'll hopefully come out the other side, much better off. So those are my two pieces.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. To hear the full episodes of any of the guests from 2024, listen on your platform of choice or watch the full interviews on YouTube. If you have any questions or want to know more, feel free to email me on admin@themoneysandwich.com or visit our website, themoneysandwich.com. Enjoyed this episode and want to hear more of A Bite from the Money Sandwich? Make sure you subscribe on your platform of choice so you can automatically receive each episode as soon as it's released. As with every podcast, this information is not advice, as not personalized to your own situation. And past performance is never guaranteed for the future. What we are trying to do here is to provide tips, coaching, and education to help improve your money knowledge, which we believe can only be a good thing. See you next time when we take another bite from the Money Sandwich.